Having said that, why did Cyrus say that this looks like one of the worst loan books he's ever seen? So you can see the green loans, which are the ones which are taken already. However, when you take green away, which are the active loans, you press that little button. Now, all of the gray dots are the loans which are in auction. So all of these loans are basically looking for lenders. When you're operating in the perpetual lending market, this is what happens. You take a loan out, sorry, you give a loan to someone, and both parties can basically cancel the loan at any time. So if the borrower wants to pay you back the next day, they can do that. They pay you the small amount of interest, that's fine. But equally, if you are the lender and you decide that you don't want the loan anymore, as long as you wait 24 hours on Blend, you can cancel it. When you cancel it, the way that the market guarantees that you get paid your interest, whether that's after 1 day, 7 days, 14 days, is the loan amount which you gave. Say I give a 5 ETH loan against a pudgy penguin, and I've given that loan at 20% interest, and I've had it open for 14 days. After 14 days, I don't want it anymore. I don't want that loan. I want to cancel the deal from my end. So I go to Blur, I click cancel, and what will happen is it goes into a refinancing auction. So the amount that I paid, I lent was 5 ETH. Maybe I've earned, I don't know, 0.04 of interest in that time. So 5.04 ETH will go into a refinancing auction. And basically those become these gray dots, which are described as loans in auction. So basically the amount that you are now owed gets paid by the next person. So the only way a lender gets paid is if there is another lender to pay them the interest, or the person sells their NFT at a higher price and you get paid back that way. But when the loan goes into a refinancing auction, you're basically waiting for another lender to pay for your debt plus your interest. So the reason why this is such a bad loan book is because you can see God knows how many active loans which do not currently have a lender. Now, what happens if no lenders arrive? So you can see all in the top right hand corner, you can see all of these loans which are for a value which is higher than the current floor price. The problem with that is obviously that no one is going to step in and take that loan now. I don't want to give a 9.2 ETH loan to someone when the floor of a Pudgy Penguin is 8.3. So what's going to happen at the end of the refinancing auction period of time? These assets will basically get liquidated. They will go to the lender who is going to be down on their asset, right? Because they've lent I'm looking at this one. Someone has lent, a lender has lent 9.57 ETH on this penguin. No one's going to step in to take that. So they're going to get that asset. But now the floor price is at 8.3 with only a bid at 7.86 ETH. So if that lender has no intention of holding the asset, what are they going to do? They're either going to list it at the floor price, hoping that someone comes in to buy it, or they're just going to sell it directly into the top bid. And you can see all the bids here. Now, another thing about why it's so bad is because, as you can see, the number of active loans are huge. And you can actually click on this tab as well to see the extent of all of the loans that have a higher than 100% LTV value at the moment, which means that they're basically higher than the floor price. I would estimate, I mean, Legendary, you can see this as I'm sharing it. There's probably, I don't know, we can't count this one by one, but there's way too many to count. I would estimate there's 100 at least above a 100% LTV, which means, you know, there's going to be no lender for those. They're going to get liquidated. And then the question is, what do people do with that? Do you have a long-term holder who's like, no, I want to hold the asset, or do I need to liquidate immediately for 7.86 ETH and just take my 1.5 ETH loss? Because that's the loss that they'll be taking, right? Say they lent 9.5 ETH. The bid is now at 7.86. They get the asset gets liquidated and they sell for 7.8. And the delta between the two is the loss that they will take. Who knows? That could be better than taking a much bigger loss, right? So that's what's going on there. And as I said, you can kind of look at the depth of the bids now, because remember on Blur for a long period of time, these bids were significant. You would see like thousands of ETH in bids. You'd see like multiple bidders. What it looks like now is probably a slightly different picture. Again, there's probably still farmers involved in this amount of bidding too. So it's no guarantee these are real buyers either. But you've got you've got 13 bids at 7.86 ETH. You've got these are all changing live as well. I suspect there are bots involved in this. But once you get past this kind of wall at 7.86 ETH, you've just got like single or very low number bids at each price. The number of bids in the 7 ETH region is pretty thin. You get down to the 6 ETH region, there's not a whole lot there. Obviously, these bots are going to move their bids down in line with the price. So I wouldn't be so scaremongering to say like, oh, there's only 5 bids in the 6 ETH region. No, what will happen is the bots or whoever's farming, they'll end up moving the bids lower so that they can maximize their blur points. But the depth of the bids has obviously been reduced significantly now that CBB has pulled the bids. So that is what it means to have one of the worst loan books that you've ever seen. An incredible number of penguins that are underwater, which means their loan to value ratio is greater than 100%, which means the amount given as a loan is way more, or not necessarily way more, but just more than the current floor price and the top bid. And it doesn't look like there's going to be any lenders to step in for a number of these, which means they'll get liquidated, which means they'll probably have to get sold into the market.